Hello everybody, Poncianinho speaking here. I'm starting another vlog. I have not done a vlog in a long time. I've just been focusing on some other things. I've been training some other stuff, and I haven't had time to keep the momentum. But something that is important in my life is to understand that sometimes you lose momentum with something, and then you pick it up momentum again. That's important because sometimes we lose momentum on something, and we feel we have to stop that because we've almost betrayed ourselves, that we've lost momentum. But you can't keep momentum going for the whole time in everything that you do. So sometimes you're going to lose, and it's important to lose momentum sometimes because you can come back up and learn even point of why you've left that and why you're coming back for it now. And sometimes that loss of momentum can actually strengthen the next momentum, the next curve that goes up. So hopefully we can pick up some momentum again. I'm going to restart the vlogs with a subject that have always fascinated me. And it fascinated me because it have two sides that become one. So basically it has the very physical side of this and the more philosophical side, and even the more it deals a lot of how you feel as a capoeirista, or as a performer. Now I'm using the word performing here because I think you will illustrate the point more, as if when you are in a roda, you are showing something to others, but not in the sense of a performer in a show or a stage. That would be different. So I don't want to confuse you with the word performing. I could say vadiando. Now these are very two different words. Perform and vadiar are different. They initiate different feelings. However, I'm going to stick with the word performing here because sometimes when you are in a roda, sometimes you favorite some things because it's that moment of the roda, and there are times in practice that you might not favor some things because you are in practice and you're not in a roda, and you can do that. You can afford to do the point that I'm going to talk about. So the points here today is about favoring sides. So I've used the word favoring. It's something I think most capoeiristas struggles with. Okay, we favor sides. We favor sides for many reasons. Now I'm talking physical. I'm on the physical side. We do a movement more on one side than on the other side. I'm sure most of you have thought about this or had to deal with that. Okay. Now, if you play a little bit of capoeira, that's fine. But if you add 10, 20, 30, a whole life to it, that's not fine. It's not fine to always use one side of your body. It's your whole body that is being played. You've got to understand everything that is happening in your body in terms of movements, the sides of the movements. Otherwise, what couldn't happen here is you become very intelligent on one side of your body and not intelligent on the other side of the body. Now that's something that I think we cannot afford anymore, especially because we do practice capoeira in another context now than maybe capoeira was practiced many years ago. So because of the way we practice now, we have to have a think at some point of how important is what I am doing more in a roda. Now if you play a lot of capoeira and you don't train so much capoeira, this could be even more important, because when you play capoeira a lot, you tend to some movements do on your stronger side. Now that will come from, if you're right-handed, if you write with your right hand, if you use your right hand more, so some things you're going to do that with the right hand more. Some people are right-handed but they kick with the left leg more. That's me. Other people are right-handed, right leg. Or you can have, you see where this is going to start to open into a really interesting subject, because it gets quite intricate. You may favor one side in one movement on your arms, but you favor more on the other leg. You might have more flexibility on one leg, so the leg goes higher, some movement, and that could link to being easier to do another movement because that leg just feels a little looser, and you balance better on the other leg. So when I say favor side, I know you may start to go, but that's just so complicated. How are we going to have to separate all that? I might not have time to separate all that. Well, the first thing to think about is if you become a little aware, you'll be amazed of how much your body talks to you, of how much you will feel. All right, I'm balanced better on this leg. You know, and the thing with this as well is whenever you have an injury, then you are immediately forced to observe some of those points. So when you have an injury, you're immediately forced to observe, oh, I did not know that I actually jump better on this leg and I balance better on this leg. So it doesn't follow that we shouldn't look at those things before. And I'm not even talking much in preventing injuries. I know this is a massive subject, a subject I do care about, you know, and a lot of people start with that approach. They start with the approach of we mustn't favor sides only, or only do things on one side, because obviously the first thing that comes to your mind is you can hurt yourself. That's very obvious, and that's very true, and you can hurt yourself. I have got a few things that happen to me because I'm right-handed and I do more things on one side. But I'm going to start with another approach since we don't have hours of lectures here and we only have a short time. These vlogs are mainly to initiate a thought, you know, and then when I get a good feedback, if people like a lot, then we can go back to this one and open up and talk more about that and start to develop. I can give you some tips on techniques of how I do these kind of trainings, okay? But I would say that the first thing is to become aware of that. Now, for teachers, that's very important because you are observing your students and you are not only realizing who favors one side more, but you're also realizing to you in class. Sometimes we in class can favor one side more. Even if we're doing 10, are we doing 10 negativas? And obviously doing 10 does not mean favor. Sometimes you put something else in that good side, and even psychologically you sort of neglect a little bit the other side. And it's all about steering the boat to be a little bit more passionate, to take more care of that side that needs caring, to be a little bit more in love. I remember my mom used to always tell, my mom is a dancer, and she noticed one day how more flexible I am on one leg. And I remember she saying, oh, a good technique for that is I always start stretching on the leg that is less flexible. I take a little bit more time, because sometimes the leg that we start first, we favor a little bit more. So therefore, you should favor that leg. I mean, this is just a tiny tip on the whole subject. But I want to start talking about the empowerment. We're using that word empowerment quite often, but the empowerment that gives to you. And also, it makes you feel quite humble about your practice because you know you have so much to work on the other side. There was a Capoeira magazine, I don't know, some of you may have seen before. In Brazil, there was a phase, we had lots of Capoeira magazine. Every month, magazine came up with a CD. It was very nice. I liked it a lot. I was very young, and I remember it was very exciting to have a Capoeira magazine. And in one magazine, there was this great capoeirista, and he said, the one thing I realized in my career that was really in desperate need is that I felt I was very, very, very good in capoeira, but I realized I was only good on one side. And he felt really like inspired to restart again. So I'm initiating this vlog by giving you an awareness of how much this will have a positive effect in your performance, coming back to that word. In the beginning, of course, it will be hard, but what I did is games that I knew I was practicing more, because there are many times that a capoeirista must realize time is such an important word for us, when to do what. As you become more experienced, I guess maybe one of the things that I recognize as a mastery, is those people that really understand when to do what. You know, we all do the movements, we all do this, we all play berimbau, but when to sing that certain song, when to play that certain way. I think this is what sets people apart from being a capoeirista and one day become a master. One of the points of mastery, of course. I'm not talking so much yet about the philosophy and the historical approach to capoeira, but on the movement side, that it's very important, right? And so I sometimes switch off from this because I know I'm in a game where if I'm thinking, if I'm doing a conscious effort to think sides, you will affect my performance not positive, not in a positive way. So I switch off. However, because I train a lot, I practice a lot, and I'm not always in those horders where, it's a moment where I've got to switch off and really just vajar with what's happening. I practice my bad side, let's say. Perhaps it's not good to call it the bad side, the side that needs more care. And the way you frame is important. But I then start to play and do more movements to that side that needs more attention. And then that for me was almost like a little trick that you're using that other people don't know. And the first thing that showed me, the first thing that came out of this idea of doing more to that side is, one, immediately more motivation for training. Now in my vlogs, I'm always talking about that. Every time I can find something in my vlogs that links to that motivation, people really appreciate, because it's important for us. So immediately gave me more motivation to practice capoeira, and it gave a feeling of longevity. It gave a feeling of something that initiates, that is going to continue for quite a long time. And that, for an artist, it's a precious feeling. When you meet a master or you meet a capoeirista, not just have to be a master, but when you meet a capoeirista or you listen to a new album, you go, this is just the beginning. There was more to this than I knew. And the simple approach of thinking about that side that has not been favored will give you that feeling of there is more. And then you initiate a new path. You can mix different things that I spoke in other vlogs into this idea. So this is my first vlog back about sides. If you like this vlog a lot, if you think it's really useful, I do have lots of other tips. I would like to go deeper into the psychological of this, of why I think it's not trivial, that being care with your sides is not just a fussy thing that you trying to find things to be preoccupied with. I think it's very high on the list that your body needs to be take care in that way. And then even when it's all right to favor side, and why, not that it's impossible, but why it is difficult to be absolutely perfect on both sides. How can we then embrace some of those differences? That's another thing that I found personally I had to use in my capoeiras, in my practices. How do I then can embrace when I perform those two sides? But then how can I also be fair to them, really communicating with my body? So as I said, if you've enjoyed that, let me know, put a comment there, and I will develop this first vlog back. I'll develop into different practice, different trainings, and perhaps we can find together some really great answers on this subject of sides. Ok? Um abraço. Tchau, tchau.